So, Patrick, how you doing, bud?
Not too bad at all, buddy. So what have you for me today?
Well, we are going to be discussing socialism with Mr. Brian
Mm.
Holdsworth. If you've been watching the news, you saw that Zohran Mamdani was elected in New York City, the Big Apple.
And I think, and this gentleman is going to explain to us the difference between the socialist government and socialist policies. And I think, as I was saying to you earlier, there's a big difference, say, in the United States. Anything attached to any kind of social policy is automatically classed as socialism, as in the government of socialism.
Right, and it can be.
You can have socialist type policies that benefit your society without having a socialist government.
Right,
and I think in the United States, you have to kind of separate the policies from the government.
That's correct. So we're going to find out why it is that socialism as a governing policy hasn't ever really worked, not one time. Because when you force equity on the population because you have to highly regulate a society for it to function correctly, you end up with dictators functionally. So
very, very poor outcomes. Because what do they say? The road to hell is paved with very good intentions, but human nature being what it is, it never really works out with that people.
But we will be learning about some of the folks that started all these thought processes and the origins of where it came from. And you'll probably be a little shocked. It's good. A little shocked means a little good.
I think a lot of people, as I say, I'm a bit of a history buff myself. But I think it will shock some of our audience, all right?
For sure. Here we go.
If you even casually pay attention to politics today, it probably seems like everyone has become either a socialist or like a free market liberal, which is usually called conservative for some reason today. These two branches of thought being associated with philosophers like Karl Marx and someone like John Locke, with some help from other philosophers like Machiavelli and Rousseau and even Hobbes. But this state of affairs isn't even slightly new. In fact,
so those five that he mentioned fall very differently on the map, right?
Yes.
So Karl Marx with Engels was the one who wrote the manifesto for communism, how socialism functions. John Locke said that government was a function of protecting people's property and ability to have mercantile function, right?
Yes.
Thomas Hobbes was the world is a savage place, so we should all have a gun. Rousseau was more on the communist side, right? I mean, those five are generally the way they lean is kind of the way our governmental styles lean. You see what I'm saying?
It is quite interesting to see all their different approaches. Even if I've always said to young people, you should read more and study more, about different forms of government before you jump on a bandwagon.
Right.
It would kind of shock them if you kind of look into the history of some of these guys. It's quite interesting.
Being informed is important. All right, here we go.
Yeah, especially what you were saying there about John Locke.
Like that. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
These theories go way, way further back than that, all the way back to Plato and Aristotle. It's much more accurate to say that everyone is either a Platonist or an Aristotelian in their political theories. And I point this out for a few reasons, but one is definitely because modern socialists or progressives like to think of their ideas as being new and...
No. Your shit's not new.
They're not.
Not new at all. No.
No matter what you think of, right? Whatever new idea you think you have right now, somebody else has thought of it before.
Yeah, pretty much.
We've had 10,000 years of history. We've tried all the governments, okay? Democratic government, that what we have for the most part across our federal type of government is probably the best over a bad lot. It's not perfect, but it's the best over a bad lot.
Right. Well, because governing lots of people who have specific intentions that are not always the best, like you need to regulate the behavior, figure out what the social mores are, set up a set of laws, and then set up a way to protect your citizens.
As we say, it's like, it's like herding cats. It's pretty much in a lot of ways.
Not the easiest thing to do.
No, it's not.
Innovative. But the reality is, Plato had already identified all of the supposed innovations of Karl Marx thousands of years before Marx decided it would be a good idea to stop bathing. The ideas that progressives like to flatter themselves with as innovative are actually ancient in origin and have been thoroughly tried and failed multiple times throughout history.
And that's a concept that's going to come up when you discuss socialism. Not just it fails a little bit, but it is abject failure. Abject failure.
I think what the problem with an awful lot of young people is they want a solution that'll work straight away. And unfortunately, that's not the way the world works. Socialism on paper, if you read Karl Marx or any adjacent works, on paper it sounds fantastic. Sounds like a complete utopia until the rubber meets the road and it doesn't work because people are, for the most part, very self-interested. As we discussed in a previous video about healthcare and so on, people are very much about looking after myself first and then everyone else second.
Me, my family, my tribe, my city, my state, my country.
And that's the way, and that's the way the circle, for the most part, works.
Right. The individual doesn't necessarily
then my
want to
family,
work.
then my neighbor, then my tribe, then my state, or so on. And then that's the way it's always worked all the way through history. It's very hard to get people to think differently when we've had tens of thousands of years of being the other way.
A little bit of evolution and survival tells us that's probably not going to work. Like it goes against the nature of humans because we're not going to be a good faith actor if there is zero return to us. We're just not.
Yes, people genuinely work together for a common goal if there's an external threat.
Yes.
That's the way it normally works through history.
Yep.
Now, if there is not an external threat, you're trying to get people to all eat the same, work the same, do the same. And that's not the way people generally operate.
Right.
Outside the external threat.
It removes agency from individuals. Like they won't be able to act. Right. Yeah. So here we go.
There's one particular idea that haunts the socialist hive that is particularly conducive to failure. And again, it's one that Plato himself proposed in his great political manifesto, The Republic, which is the abolition of private property. Now, when Marx was asked to summarize his socialist theory, he narrowed it down to this one thing as well. In his manifesto, he said his theory could be summarized in this one sentence: the abolition of private property.
Right. If you can't own things, then you have nothing that you're going to care about to maintain. If it's not yours, you're not going to maintain it. You don't care about it.
As you keep saying, you have no skin in the game.
Yeah, you have no stake at all.
Yeah.
Right.
And I understand when Karl Marx in his particular time period, there was a massive upheaval all across the industrial world because you had massive tenement blocks and you had massive poverty and people genuinely didn't own anything. So the idea of if we take this form of government, is telling us we're not going to own anything, but we'll have something better, we're going to go for it.
Right, and we'll seize the means of production to ensure that we, the proletariat worker, have the thing. Yeah.
Yes, and for that time period, it was really appealing to people, like it is right now to young people who are stuck in a rental trap or dead-end job and so on.
Right, poverty trap.
It's really appealing. Yeah, it's history repeating itself, but with a new shinier coat on top.
Right. There you go.
Recent times, this idea was promoted by the World Economic Forum, in which the phrase "you'll own nothing and be happy" was featured in one of their propaganda videos. So as old as this idea is, it seems to be routinely recycled as if it's some new innovation.
From Plato's Republic directly to "you'll own nothing and you'll be happy," right?
Yeah.
And just as this supposedly innovative progressive idea is actually thousands of years old, so too is its solution, which comes from Plato's student, Aristotle, who said this in contrast to his teacher. He said, "That which is common to the greatest number has the least care bestowed upon it." What he means is when you make some responsibility the responsibility of everyone, it will be given the least amount of care.
And people will just assume someone else in the body politic will handle the thing, so it's not their responsibility.
I noticed that actually recently, well, a couple of years ago as well, is I'm just going to use social housing as an example here in Ireland, council housing. Yeah, I was down to a couple of council tenants one time at a meeting, in a job I had before. And one of them, their sliding door come off the hinges, if anyone knows what I'm on about. It came off the rail, which is, annoying, but it's pretty cheap to get fixed. But I said to the young lady in particular, why don't you get it fixed? Well, it's not my property. I'm not going to pay for it. So they're just waiting for, the county council to come fix it whenever. The same here. If you own nothing, you're going to respect nothing. You're not going to respect your space or what you have. You've no skin in the game.
Yeah, you don't care. And since you can't own anything anyway because you're in that utopia, nobody will do anything. There's nothing to take pride in. If there's nothing to take pride in, then you just don't care.
Yeah, Jordan Peterson is just going to sit there and wait for Gardeau to suddenly turn up and magically fix it. Or in this case, the county council to come fix it whenever, instead of actually fixing the immediate problem themselves with personal responsibility.
Right. You have a lack of accountability and everything is plausible deniability at that point. So
exactly.
Or the more people you assign a responsibility to, the less concern will be shown for it. So like imagine a neighborhood green space, like a park or something like that, where the city assigns the responsibility for maintaining it to just everybody in the neighborhood. The rationale being that if everyone does their part, everyone mows a little bit of grass, trims a few trees, and cleans up the litter, then it will be well cared for. But what's the likelihood that everyone would take an equal share of that responsibility and that the space would be well maintained? I think if we're being honest, the answer is not likely at all. Best case scenario, a few people take on the overwhelming burden of responsibility and get very little gratitude or reward for it, which will eventually disenfranchise them of their concern for it as well. If you've ever been assigned a group project at school, you'll find that the larger the group is, the more likely that a minority of people will carry the group and everyone will share in the credit for the accomplishment, whether it's good or bad. But the injustice...
Right. That is a truism. In college, I ended up on lots of team projects where the weight of the project was on my back because I was not going to fail. Right. But the other people in the group didn't care if they got an A or a C, and I cared about my grade. Like, I'm going to get an A on this. And if you don't do any of the work, I will do all of the work. And it was readily apparent that was going to happen.
Yeah, I remember I happened to me the first time I was in college, happened actually in third year, where we were mixed in from mature students into the younger age bracket. And they had these the way they do these random teams. Mm-hmm. So I ended up with myself, another mature student, and 5 other kids.
Oh, God.
Now, bear in mind, when I say kids now, they're in their 20s, but they were kids to me. That's right. At that age. And they were kind of, how would I put it, dragging their feet is the word I would use. So I called a meeting and I said to the kids, I said, look, we all have to get this project done. You have to carry our weight. And they were kind of laughing and joking. I said, how do you carry our weight? I said, I'll just go to call into the lecturer. Oh, I said, yes. If you don't do the work, I will report you. Everyone carries our weight equally.
Yeah, I did the same thing. Got done with the report. I prepared a report that showed the amount of work that me and one other student did and the other 4 students who just didn't. Like there was none of their thought labor or none of the work was done by them. So me and my buddy, who were both veterans, and both of us did the skull sweat and the preparing of the paperwork and all the things and presented the nice little book and da-da-da. So we got A's and they all got C's. And I was like, pretty much. You know what I'm saying? They showed up for the meetings. Like we had little, weekly meetings.
Oh yeah, they did the signature and all this. And I was laughing at them, kind of going, "This is absolutely ridiculous."
Dog water, bro. All right, here we go.
This of that experience when a minority of people take the responsibility that other people just take credit for, either in the green space analogy or in the school assignments analogy, will weigh upon those people, the minority who did all the work. The injustice will be felt by them, which will eventually discourage them from doing so in the future. As a parent, I see this all the time. If we tell the kids, everyone is responsible for this particular chore, then nobody does it. But if we individualize them and give them certain incentives for specific responsibilities, then things tend to get done.
Right. If I assign a task to a child, I can come back later and go, hey, the trash wasn't taken out, so you need to go handle the thing, and they'll take the trash out. And the other one, hey, the dishes aren't done. That's your thing. Sweeping, mopping, whatever the task was. Like, if I know whose responsibility is and they know it's on them, they're more likely to perform the task.
To get that specific task done. And by the way, that works in every workplace, by the way. That across life in general, that works quite well. Instead of giving people a general area to handle, was given general specific tasks A, B, and C, and the results are 10 times better.
Right. And even better than just you'll get in trouble if you don't is if you are rewarded if you do. Right?
Yes.
That's why you work for a job that pays you money and you get professional acumen to get more money for the thing you do.
Yeah.
You get rewarded for the effort.
Yeah, carrot and stick approach. Yeah.
Even better, if someone has a stake in a certain responsibility, like a pet that is uniquely theirs, they're even more motivated to take care of it. But shared spaces and shared property that nobody owns and nobody gets to enjoy uniquely are the first things to get neglected. And this isn't just theoretical. I have a few friends who grew up under the Iron Curtain in Eastern Europe, and one of them relayed a story that illustrates this principle really well. He said that all of the shared spaces in the city where he grew up were derelict and poorly cared for. This included even common spaces in apartment buildings like lobbies and hallways, all the way up until you entered someone's own apartment. And then suddenly it was immaculate, it was beautiful, it was clean.
Because they had pride in their space and those were their things. Right?
There were their things and that was their immediate area. Yeah.
Yeah. That's where I live. That's my cave. You know, I'm going to paint my cave the way I want and put my rocks in my cave the way I want them. And, you know, my stalagmites go there and my stalactites are over there. Like, that's my cave. It's my spot, you know?
Yes. Yeah, exactly.
This is the pride of ownership.
It's funny, actually. I'm thinking of tidy towns. Even in Ireland, kind of know. Do you know those? Do you have something like tidy towns in your area? You know, people go out and they weed and generally volunteer in the area.
There's they have, like he was talking about, green spaces.
Yes,
right? There are some green spaces and community gardens and those kinds of things. Yeah.
You'll always notice there could be 100 people living in that area, and there's only about 3 or 4 people who actually care about those spaces.
They'll tend to the composting heap and they'll put stuff in the greenhouse and
they have pride in their area and pride where they live. When most people are very insular, or I wouldn't say selfish, but very self-absorbed in their own immediate area.
Right. And it's worse in bigger cities because, like we said before, big cities at this point are just human zoos where everybody lives in their little box. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, people are so disconnected. I remember we were looking at a study there recently of young people and under the age of 35 that their biggest problem is loneliness.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
and then it becomes more like a zoo when you get, you know, food delivery services that bring the food right to your, you know, your zoo cage or your cell. You don't leave the house. You just continue to masturbate your electronics and eat food that's brought to your door, right? That's going to cause an epidemic of loneliness because it's just weird to go talk to people now. It's weird to interact. Or if you approach somebody, they're like, wow, you're a creep, dude. Get away from me. I only talk to people I know. You're not going to get to know people if you don't introduce yourself to someone.
I actually found that when I was traveling, especially in Eastern Europe, by the way. I traveled quite a bit over there. It's when you go into local bars, not the Irish bars. You know what I mean? When I go abroad, I try to, for the most part, stay away from the Irish bars. I like to, you know, experience the culture I'm in.
Right.
And the first time I flew over to Poland, I went to one of the local bars that selling it was lovely food and lovely drink. And I was talking to the bar person. Next time I started talking to one of the locals who was next to me. He was reading one particular book in English, so I knew he spoke English. And he was kind of going, why are you kind of talking to me? And so we got generally chatting about the book, and he said people generally around here don't usually, you know, talk to strangers, you know, that kind of way.
Right.
And it's, as you said, young people especially have no communication skills when it comes to talking to strangers.
Right. Well, a lot of that has to do with these kids don't have to negotiate anything when they're young. Right. They're not out there in the world. And if they say something loud, they're going to get smacked up a bit. And then the next time they go to talk, they're going to be like, you know, the last time I decided to be a rugged individualist and not be a part of this society, I got smacked around a bit. So I'm going to stop and listen. And then I'm going to try and say something measured. But some of us, it takes a little longer. We got to get smacked in the head a few times before we're like, oh, got it. So there's a level I need to be at. Right. And
Plus, I think the sad thing too about young people is the fact that they're being told, especially in Western countries, they've been told they're a special kind of snowflake all through their lives.
Yeah.
They're not allowed to fail in any shape, form, or fashion.
And that brings a horrible kind of entitlement to people. And when they fail, it's even worse and causes even more loneliness and even more things to go sideways.
And that's why ideas of socialism and stuff like that usually kind of come into the ether around these kind of lonely individuals. They want a quick solution to their immediate, what they see as immediate social problems.
Right. But understanding that the socialism bug gets generally caught by those who are smart enough to have completed some kind of course of education, but don't have the drive to actually go achieve the goal. And they kind of band together to say, we're the smart ones, we should run the show. And then they attempt to foment takeover. And it's done by moving those lonely, disenfranchised people to action, right? We're smart and we need your help. And
or the other sad thing is you would even look at the opposite side of the scale where they look at more right-leaning policies or right-leaning governments to solve their problems as well.
Yep.
You see young people going down that road as well. So there seems to be two really extreme solutions arising at the moment across the Western countries.
Right. And neither one of them
it's either extreme socialism or it's going to be extreme right-wing policies. There seems to be no medium or reasonable form of policies coming out of young people these days. It's either one or the other.
Right. And there's no kind of attempt to optimize those interactions, right? It's I'm going to take over the system completely, and then I'm going to put in as an instrument my form of government, and it will be the best. But understanding when you top-down control like that, and you don't give people the ability to move around and have agency and ownership, there's a problem, right?
Oh, massively, as we've seen all the way through history.
Because of the pride of ownership in that particular space. Even more than that, Aristotle argues, if you abolish private property, you also abolish generosity and charity. You rob people of their ability to care for their fellow neighbors because the ability to do so depends on their having resources that they can then share.
Right, and then you have to depend upon the state to take care of all of the things all of the time. So you have a mommy and a daddy that hate you and don't want to take care of you, and they've taken all of your things, and you don't have your own bedroom, and you don't have your own bed, and you don't have your own anything. You don't even have a teddy bear. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
You have one issued mattress, one issued blanket, one issued pillow, and then we just expect you to work yourself till you die for the benefit of the state. That seems to be a bad deal.
Ooh. It's a bad deal for everyone involved.
Well, except for the few that are in control. It's good for them.
Yeah, it's obviously, we've seen all through history, Stalin is probably the one that people probably recognize more. There's other socialist leaders like Stalin all the way through, but Stalin's probably the one that everyone is saying your side of the world would probably understand straight off the bat.
Yeah.
It was Stalin, and his cronies controlled everything, and it did not quite work out too well.
Mao Zedong, Castro.
Castro's another example which he is.
Yeah, in the 1950s, Cuba was one of the most amazing countries in the world for what it was. And then then Fidel.
The problem was it was very rich for very few people in Cuba at the time. And when that happens, you have a recipe for disaster. When you have 1% controlling 90% of the wealth, it's a recipe for real bad choices happening eventually. Because people are going to get so angry at being at the bottom that something's going to pop.
And it does every time.
Yeah.
If everything is owned by the state, then your citizens have no way or incentive to share from their own resources. The experience and virtue of generosity becomes stripped from social life altogether. It's interesting how this factors in to the second sin that is recorded in the Bible. The first one being Adam and Eve's fall from grace, and then the second one being Cain's murder of his brother Abel. And when God asks him about it, you get a glimpse into Cain's mind. What does he say? He says, "Am I my brother's keeper? That's not my responsibility. He isn't uniquely assigned to me as a responsibility. Therefore, I don't care about him."
Right. There's no care for community and relations. There's no care for your brother. right? But
No.
that message is actually a bigger message, and that the people in your culture, they are all your brothers and sisters in that culture. And you should, if you have the chance to, contribute to the well-being of the community and the people within the community, right?
And it gives people, I've always said to you, especially young people or even people who are semi-retired, is go out and volunteer in your local community.
Yep.
You'll feel better about yourself, and also, you know, you get to socialize as well.
Just give back people. Help people. Yeah. Some of your acumen in life and wisdom can be passed down, or you can just be there for somebody who needs an ear.
Exactly. Right? I've always said that to people, is go, if you're stuck, say, on the welfare system, say, through no fault of your own, say you lose your job in the morning, which can happen to anyone, by the way.
Yep.
And you're at a bit of a loose end. I've always said to people, go and volunteer, get yourself out of the house. Not just go out and walk, but go out and say to the local soup kitchen or whatever it be, and volunteer for a couple hours a week.
For sure. Touch grass, talk to people. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, one, it looks good in an interview.
Oh, yeah.
Secondly, it gets you out to touch grass and meet three-dimensional people.
Well, and a job can be generated from that, or something. You know, provide you something to tide you over.
That can happen with people as well.
I need something that could drive this lorry. And you're like, well, I got a couple of months free. I'll drive this truck for you. I got you. It could lead to another thing just by touching elbows, bumping elbows with folks, getting to know them. You know?
You don't know who you'll meet in the line, as they say.
Yeah. Could be the most amazing person or an interesting person, or you're like, oh, I found out that I can help people. I don't particularly like that person, but they also have worth as a human. I'll help them out, you know?
Yeah.
It's very interesting how that attitude can progress and develop into something like a murderous outrage towards your neighbor. And this whole theory about the abolition of private property actually extends to the family as well, because both Plato and Marx saw the family as a form of individualized ownership, where the parents treat their children uniquely as their own, rather than as a shared responsibility of the entire community.
Right. That's an evolution thing. Like, that's just how mammals do. Right. So what you're saying is just go against the very stuff that you are made of to be some awkward automaton drone. Right.
Yes. In a production line, literally.
It makes no sense for somebody to even say that, hey, I've got this really great concept. Your children aren't really yours. They're everybody's. No, bro, my kids are my kids, and I'm going to raise them to be better.
Bear in mind, this is coming from a guy who walked away from his own kids. Just saying.
Oh, this guy.
But I've always said to people, look, Marx and all the rest of them, look into their ideals, but also look into the individuals who wrote those ideals. Did they actually follow the ideals that they preached? No,
they didn't.
And for the most part, a lot of them didn't.
No, they're just selfish, and they're like, I've got a great concept.
Yes. He's turning around and telling parents to give up their kids to the state when some of the writers literally gave up their kids to the state because they couldn't be bothered. You know what I mean?
Yeah, well, they're too busy writing books about the utopia to take care of their own children.
Yeah, exactly.
So, it's a bit of a problem. Yeah.
But as anyone who has raised children will tell you, and I place myself in that category as well, children need a lot of personalized attention and mentorship to become healthy and balanced adults. Simply put,
productive members of society who understand right from wrong. You keep them safe till they get there and try and give them, as best you can, the best outlet to have a good life for themselves, which is incumbent upon parents to do for their children.
Exactly. We're social individuals. We also learn from our parents a lot of our cues, our nuances, our core values.
For sure. And a lot of that is instilled in just having conversations with them and creating the appropriate neural pathways for them to be able to manage survival and the ability to effectively communicate and just be better people.
Exactly. And also, yes, there is a place for kids to interact with the larger village or community, which is also good for kids.
Yes.
But having your responsibilities as a parent taken over by the state and turn them all into human robots, that's pretty much what it is.
Or adoption agencies or whatever, right?
Yeah. They tried this, and by the way, in Russia for many, many years, and trust me, it came out with very, very, very poor outcomes in a lot of ways.
Right. It's one of the things I think they had to repeal and go back to a family structure. That little bit of autonomy had to be put into the system, or they wouldn't have successful humans, because the humans had to be raised to
be proper,
right,
properly socialized.
Yes, maybe an ass whooping here or there, you know.
They need significant personalized love and care, which would only come from someone who identifies them uniquely as their own responsibility and even a reflection of themselves. Aristotle summarizes this point like this. He says, a father cares more for his own children than he would for children in general, for one's own children are recognized as one's own and not just vaguely known about or shared. And this is undeniably true. Like, I care a lot about the children of my friends and the children of my extended family, like nieces and nephews, but I don't care about them nearly enough to provide for them the love and the formation that they need as compared to my own children. And we see this play out in society all the time. A parent is far more concerned about a child's welfare than like a teacher or a social worker. And it's precisely that degree of concern that a child needs to develop into a healthy and whole human being. They need tangible experiences of devotion, of focused love, and mentorship in their life.
So also in this one is, let's say that my sister has a child, right? So I have a niece or a nephew, and for some reason, my sister cannot raise that child. And she asked me, hey, Alex, the little Mikey here, I can't go. Like I need someone. I will take my sister's child into my home as my own child and raise that child as if it were mine. Right?
Yes.
Because it's incumbent upon me to make sure that my sister's child, as well as my own children, have the care, attention, and love to be developed into just good socially, how do you say that? Socially integrated personalities, right? That are functional, right? Socially integrated personalities. Well, I was trying to get to the space where you understand that my sister's children are that important to me. Or if, say, something happens to my mate, I get a new mate, and that mate has children, then I'm going to have to do that for them as well, because that is what a responsible, caring adult human in the society does, right?
Yeah.
If I lose the first mate, go ahead.
You do try to, as I said, step in and help. But I think the problem with communism or socialism is they don't want people to think too much outside the box, because that does not work in their system.
Right. They want to make sure that you're good enough to work on the factory line, but not so smart that you'll fight back. Right?
Yes. You're smart enough to dig the holes, but not smart enough to know why you're digging the hole.
There you go.
A vague and generalized shared responsibility of the community for biological issues would never satisfy these needs. Yet both Plato and Marx thought that this was like a revolutionary insight and policy to be implemented. And this isn't just theoretical. After the Bolshevik Revolution in Russia, they tried to implement these kinds of policies of communal child rearing because they saw the traditional family as like a bourgeois and capitalist oppressive ideal. So they set up programs where children spent most of their time in state-operated facilities.
You know what we have right now in the G20 countries, though, right?
Go on.
We have schools where our children are in the schools for 6 to 8 hours a day. And then we have childcare where they're outside of our hands for a certain amount of more time in the day. And then they get home, and as opposed to interacting with them, they just get on their electronics, right? So we're experiencing the same thing, but it's self-induced. You know what I'm saying? From television to the interweb nets, it's I get home and I don't interact with the kids. They just get on the electronics and they're leaving me alone.
As I say, we're outsourcing human connection, which is a shame as well. And I think in the schools we're very much in the Prussian formation of Prussian form of schooling. It was great during the industrial era. Now, I think in this modern age, you want schools to be more creative and so on. You don't get kids.
It removes the ability of critical thinking, and it has now allowed a thing where we are teaching children what to think and not how to think. That's why we're having this woke issue, right? And we're going to go into it. I'm sure we're going to do some new discourses stuff on James Lindsay's
business. We'll leave that for another video. We're going completely off track now. We'll definitely go into that some other day.
Right, but it's important to realize that that's where that goes, and we're self-inducing this kind of thing as state-run, as opposed to the state says it. We're just doing it, right?
Yeah.
But after trying this for a few decades, they backtracked by the 1930s. The government recognized that the weakening of the family unit had contributed to all kinds of social problems, including a rise in juvenile delinquency and declining birth rates, which they recognized was a bad thing. I don't know what's wrong with us. As a result, the state began to reinforce the importance of the nuclear family as a stabilizing force in society. Policies were implemented to encourage marriage and promote the idea of the family as an essential building block of society. And
Right. So we're going to end with that note. The rest of this is
Yeah,
we're going
that's good.
to wrap it up. But what he's saying
Yeah.
is that the family structure is so important to the socialization of children and the creation of better culture and better people, right?
Oh, big time. Especially, say, man, woman, or whatever. There has to be a proper family unit where there's two parents who love the child and raise the child together.
Right.
It's so very important.
However many children, 1, 3, 7, 14, whatever, however many it is, that there's care and love and concern about the outcome of that child's life, right? Someone invested in it, right?
Yeah.
So
Exactly.
what do you have in closing for us, Patrick? Anything?
No, he actually covered it very, very well. But I do encourage people to read more on this subject and not blindly fall into whatever rhetoric is popular at the time. Always read into the roots of an idea. Like in this case, Marx and so on. Read into socialism properly, not just cherry pick what you like out of it.
Right. It's a whole doctrine versus a little bit of the doctrine. And there's going to be somebody who's more radical than you if you jump on the bandwagon. Somebody else is always willing to take it a little bit further than you are.
Oh, yes.
So just be aware of it. All right. For Patrick McCallum, I am Alex Johansson. Subscribe, ring the bell, tap the icon, do the thing, help us beat the algorithm. We're the A&P Gents, and we are out.